My never I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there. I see them yopo.
Hello guys, you are once again welcome to PENDREAM TV, your number one political show in Ghana and beyond. Today we bring you another hot interview that was granted by Sammy Gyamfi on X Space by Austin Wood. And in the interview, he's daring Afenyo marking Opong and the MPP members that are tagging him of causing financial loss in the Gold Board Institute. Today, he let them know that he's ready and they should petition him wherever they want to petition him, and he's ready to appear before Parliament if they call him for accountability. We bring you this here right on PENDREAM TV. Please stay tuned. Don't mix out. Subscribe, like, and also share to other members. Thank you.
I wanted to start by asking you to describe, basically what the gold board and this whole gold board and gold purchasing is about. So, I come from, my hometown is a community called Jibre in the Western North region. A few kilometers away from my town is another town called Juabo, that is well known for small-scale mining. So, can you walk us through the journey that gold takes from a pit at Juabo and several pits across the country to end up either as bullion in the Bank of Ghana's vaults or as foreign exchange?
All right, thank you very much, Alfred. So, gold is mined at various mining sites, and these sites may either be artisanal or small-scale mines or large-scale mines. These are broadly the three main categories of mining in Ghana. I mean, there is a discussion about amending the Minerals and Mining Act to provide for another category called medium-scale mining, but that is yet to be considered. That is yet to be laid before Parliament are considered and approved. So, skill miners who have concessions, 25-acre concessions, and have been given mining leases by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources for them to mine. And then you have the large-scale mines. Okay. Now, the mining methods differ based on the category of mining. So, at the artisanal level, like I said, the methods are very traditional, and that is where we have level, you have some level of balls. For those that use mercury, that uses mercury for their mining, you have it as balls, and then you have some as nuggets. So when gold is first mined, depending on the mining method being employed, you will have this gold in the form of a nugget, small chips of a yellowish substance, or sand, or balls. Now, this is then, let me focus on the ASM side. This is then taken, here I'm talking about small scale and artisanal miners, taken to, they call it kitchens. So these kitchens are mini foundries that gold buyers at that grassroots level. And if you want to look at it in the context of the gold board licensing scheme, you're talking about tier 1 tier 2 buyers at that level. And these buyers at their buying offices have kitchens, mini foundry. So they take it there, and this substance, this raw gold, which has in it, the reason why we call it raw gold is that it has a lot of other metals in it. Metals like silver, metals like copper, lead, and other chemicals in it. The mercury, if mercury was used, the mercury will be in it at that level. So it goes to the kitchen and then it is smelted. It is converted from solid into liquid. It is gold dory because it's a semi-pure metal. At that stage, the gold content in it for Ghana will be around 92% to 93%, roughly. Because there are countries where you can get raw gold and it is 24 karat. That, happens in some jurisdictions. But in Ghana, the average purity of our ores hovers around 91, 92, 93%. When you're lucky, you get some a little above 93%. You can get up to 93.7. So that means you're talking about between 22 to 23 karat. Okay. So you still have silver in it, like I said, you still have copper in it, you still have lead in it, and all that. So that is not pure gold. And then this gold goes through different chains of custody. If the gold was first bought by a tier 1 licensed buyer of the gold board, it will then be sold to a tier 2 buyer who will in turn sell it to an aggregator. There are cases where some tier 1 buyers are able to sell directly to the aggregator. We didn't used to allow that from the outset of our operations, but for good reason, we now allow that. So when the aggregator gets all these, small dory bars, now he, under his contract with the gold board, must deliver the gold to the gold board in certain standard measurements. So currently we request that he delivers the bars to us in 5 kg, in units of 5 kg. So he then will have to go to a certified licensed foundry and then melt all this gold. Make sure that there is no, and in melting it, the aggregator, is required to conduct SRF assay. SRF assay is an indicative assay for determining whether there are foreign, harmful, or deleterious substances in an ore. So he conducts SRF to make sure that, for example, there is no axiom in that because people can use axiom just to boost the weight of an ore and the purity, or they can mix it with tungsten. All these substances are yellowish like gold. So if you don't take care, you will be defrauded, So he is supposed to make sure that he takes that through a certain quality assurance process through SRF analysis before he smells it and then takes away the harmful substances and then casts them into bars of 5 kg. And still what you have are dory bars. I listened to your conversation and some of your speakers were confusing that with refining because that is not refining. Refining involves very sophisticated chemical processes in removing the other metals from the gold dory. So what comes to us is gold dory in 5 kg bars. Then we, at the moment, because we do not yet have an international standard ISO certified laboratory that can conduct the golden standard of assay called fire assay. We can only conduct another SRF assay and water density. And then we look at the figures that we get from water density and SRF. We are able to determine the purity. And it is based on that purity. Purity will give you minimum 99.5, without more. Others will give you 999 or 4 nines or 5 nines, depending on the kind of processes they have. So the refineries we have in Ghana are able to give us 3 nines. Royal Gold can give us 3 nines. Gold Coast can even give us 4 nines because they have the capacity to do electrolysis that can give you that kind of purity, which means that that metal that comes from the refinery is now pure gold, almost close to 24 karat gold. And then we export this gold to our counterparties. Currently, we are not refining all locally. All the gold we buy locally because of limited or constrained local capacity. The 2 refineries that we have, we project can do at optimum capacity levels 1 ton, that is 1,000 kilograms of gold refining per week. But we have decided to help them to crawl before they walk and before they run. So even though the agreements we have with them allows them to refine up to a ton, we've adopted a piecemeal gradualist approach. And we started with 150 kg per day. Now we are doing 200 kg. From next week, we are doing 300 kg. As we speak, 7.1 metric tons of the gold that the Gold Board has bought this year were refined in Ghana. The refining fees that would have ended up in Dubai, India, and Hong Kong and other advanced countries stayed in Ghana, supporting job creation and supporting our economy. So this is the process, to answer your question, Alfred, that gold will go through from the mine before it becomes bullion and then ends up. But you know, when it comes to reserves, on compliance with the OECD guidelines on responsible mining and responsible sourcing. Now, because a chunk of the Gold Board buys comes from the ASM sector, and we are yet to complete, or we are yet to formalize that sector and make it OECD compliant. That gold cannot have access to the LBMA market, but it can have access to the non-LBMA market, where we sell and get foreign exchange back into the country to support FX market stability, build reserves, and to support our economy in general. But with regards to the gold that goes into the reserves, that for the time being, only comes from the large scale sector. And you know that since 2022, under the previous government, an agreement was reached between the government and large scale mining companies for them to sell 20. In Ghana before export. The gold was sent out by the large scale mining companies to their refineries in Switzerland and South Africa, refined there, refining fee stayed in those economies outside Ghana, and then the refined gold was then delivered to the Bank of Ghana's bankers, Bank of England, Citibank, and so on. So we were refining gold, buying that. We were already buying the gold refined. So instead of refining our own large-scale gold in Ghana, so that had not reset this arrangement under his reset agenda, Ghana could never have an LBMA refinery. And that is a tragedy, that as a lead producer of gold in Africa for all these years, as a country that was once called the Gold Coast, we cannot boast of an LBMA refinery, but South Africa has one, the only one in Africa run refinery. So we have reset this arrangement, and we are now telling them that we don't need 20%, we need 30%. And this time around, you won't sell the gold to us offshore. You will sell the gold to us in Ghana, and we will pay cedis at the Bank of Ghana rate in Ghana. And every month we will do reconciliation to what we have is the last skill for starters. Now, through the formalization interventions that the Gold Board will be rolling out in conjunction with the MINCOM, who have that primary mandate, and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and our COMSDEP, we hope that we will be able to bring some ASM mines, either cooperative or licensed small-scale mines, into this LBMA market. It's been done before, where a mine, a small-scale mine owned by a young Ghanaian, is my friend, a lawyer, I'm talking about Typhoon, was able to formalize its operations and built what became a green mine. And this small-scale mine was able to send its gold to MKS Pump in Switzerland. And LBMA came, checked the operations, and accepted that gold. I believe we can have thousands of such sustainable model ASM mines, like what Peru has done, so that all this ASM gold which we are not having LBMA market access for currently, can now enter that market. So basically, this is what I have to say about your question. Sorry if I spoke for too long.
No, I think that is good. I think it's extensive enough and, covers very, very detailed every section of the value chain. So really appreciate that. One thing that I picked up on was, the differentiation that you were making between small scale and artisanal mining, right? So I was kind of interested in whether you have a sense of, from your purchases and, export information, the distribution between small scale and artisanal, like how much are you buying from small scale relative to artisanal, especially because you said it is the other sector, that the artisanal sector, that's where the issue of the environmental destruction, thrives.
Yeah, I'll be brutally frank with you. We do not yet have the data. But we are putting the data together because Mincom only has records. I'm talking about Minerals Commission. They only have records of small-scale mining licenses they have issued. Okay, and some of these licenses are yet to be renewed and so on. So the figures, differ from time to time. But we are not naive because we know that the ASM sector is far bigger than the small-scale sector. And I have the feeling that the artisanal sector is far bigger than the small-scale sector. But what we, the Gold Board, are doing under our function under Section 3 of the Gold Board are to support. We are not to lead, we are to support formalization of the ASM sector, is to use our license buying system to profile the sources of gold production in Ghana geographically. So we've started that exercise. We started it about 2 months ago because our gold trading industry has now been formalized by the Gold Board. Before the Gold Board, anybody could buy gold because there was no centralized agency regulating it. The PMMC, even though it did not have the powers to do that, as a company limited by shares, was issuing licenses that they had no powers to enforce the terms of conditions under SAFE. Then the Minister of Lands was also issuing licenses for gold purchases and exports. Then you had MIF also buying gold, Minerals Income Investment Fund, and all manner of things. That was a very chaotic, sector. But now you have one centralized agency, a state monopoly, rightly so, the Ghana Gold Board, now regulating this entire trade. And everyone buying gold has to be licensed. And there is an extensive eligibility criteria that they must comply with. And they all go through KYC, they all go through AML checks, counter-terrorism financing checks, and so on before licenses are issued. And we have their track record, they have receipts, they have obligations, under these licenses. And we have employed, trained, and deployed Gold Board inspectors and a task force across the country who on a day-to-day basis surveil and patrol the market, ensuring compliance with that. So having done that, through our receipting system, we believe that we should be able to know the gold we are buying, which percentage comes from Upper East, which percentage comes from Savannah, which percentage comes from Central, and how is that distributed in those regions. And of those that are bringing the gold as miners, how many of them are small scale, how many of them are artisanal? This is something that will be done with in the next 3 months, and I'll be happy to share that data with you because the Mincom doesn't have it, the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources doesn't have it. Ghana has never cared to build such data, but we believe that we are better placed as Gold Board to support this very important need, and so we should be able to tell you. But I can tell you that I think the artisanal sector is far bigger than the small scale sector.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I wanted to talk about, the financing of your operations, right? So we know the Bank of Ghana has indicated withdrawing from pre-financing your trade operations. But we also know, based on the export numbers that you've published, that this is a massive operation, right? So just reading from the GANRAP GANRAP is to the audience, GANRAP is the Ghana Accelerated National Reserve Accumulation Policy. It talks about gold bond needing financing of about 15 to 20 billion cedis to cover 3 to 4 weeks of purchases, right? So we know that from the fiscal data last year, there was a 4.5 billion cedi disbursement late last year. I think it was like in December. Sammy can confirm. And then this mid-year review, we also did a reallocation of about 5 billion. So we're looking at about 9.5 billion. So this sounds like there's a sort of a big gap that needs to be financed, right? So how are you managing the financing of your operations?
Okay, so
Sammy, please let me come in here respectfully. So Alfred, let's not make this as technical people, the two of you having a conversation. If you are listening, what he means by GANRAP is the government of Ghana said that the gold that we buy and store at the Bank of Ghana for the BWSM, they are increasing it at a huge pace, big. And Alfred is saying you need huge money to be able to do, because we are improving it by I think 2 or 3 folds. You need huge money for the gold board that would undertake that. Looking at the amount given, what we have to expend over the period to increase our gold reserves to that much, how would they come by the financing? That is what he is asking him. And again, those who are having issues with the YouTube link, man is also streaming live on TikTok. So that sound, once the YouTube fixed, the TikTok one is currently fixed. So if you are watching us live on YouTube or X, also copy the TikTok link and share it with others. Thank you very much. Sammy, now let's hear you with your answer.
Okay. So first of all, to understand the financing of the gold board, you need to understand how the gold board has operated since its formation in April 2025. And if you understand that, you'll come to the realization that this whole talk about Bank of Ghana pre-financing gold board is not the case. You'll come to that realization. So first of all, the previous government in the year 2021 started a program called Domestic Gold Purchase Program, which I'm sure you all know of. That program had 3 components: gold for oil, gold for reserves using large-scale mining gold, and gold for reserves using small-scale mining gold. At some point, there was another thing called gold for cash, which is another form of gold for reserves using ASM gold. Okay. Now, the Bank of Ghana was not set up to trade gold. And at the and even though the policy that was announced by the government was that the then PMMC was going to be the sole buying agent, the Bank of Ghana ended up bringing in other private buying agents, like Asanska, like Red Sapphire. Red Sapphire was a very big buying agent, you know. Now, so PMMC became a buying agent for the Bank of Ghana. In 2023, and you know, this question about financing, I will tie it to the issue around gold board fees and what many people, including the IMF, you know, fail to appreciate in discussing it, because you need context, you need background to understand it. So when this government, this previous MPP government was, you know, buying this gold through these buying agents, initially they didn't have a contract, okay, and they were not paying any fees to the buying agents. Buying agents were adjusting exchange rates to cater for their cost. Now, in September 2023, an agreement was signed between the PMMC and the Bank of Ghana, a copy of which I have in my hand now. And Austin and Alfred, you can contact me after this conversation for a copy. September 2023. It's marked confidential. I don't know why they did so back then. But as for Gold Board, any agreement we sign is public and we publish. So we can share it with you, even though that agreement is marked confidential. Okay. Now, this was an agency agreement between Bank of Ghana and PMMC. Bank of Ghana says, I'm going to give you money as my buying agent to buy gold and bring it. And when you buy the gold, I know that as a buying agent, you will incur costs. And so I'm going to pay you a service fee for the cost that you incur as a buying agent. Initially, PMMC was not getting a service fee. And the reason why the service fee even came about was because the PMMC went through some financial crisis as part of the domestic gold exchange program. And this agency job it was given by the BOG was one of the main things that revived the company. At some point in 2022, they were invited to Parliament by the Committee on Mines and Energy to discuss the state of their finances and operations. And it became evident there that the job they were doing for the Bank of Ghana, buying gold for the Bank of Ghana from 2022, they were not getting anything for it. So it was a Parliamentary Select Committee on Mines and Energy that made a strong point that the PMMC must be paid service fees for its buying agent services to the Bank of Ghana. So they came and negotiated with the Bank of Ghana and agreed on a service fee of 0.5%. This is September 2023. Sammy Gyamfi was in opposition. I was not at PM. And I would like to read of that agreement. It says, buyer, the buyer is Bank of Ghana. Buyer shall 0.5% of the utilized portion of the advance funds for acting as buying agent or buyer, unless otherwise agreed in writing between the parties. The service charge / fee shall cater for logistics and transport costs. So those people who think that it is Sammy Gyamfi that went to Gold Board and he and the Gold Board is feeding fats and they are so parasitic to the Bank of Ghana and they are draining the Bank of Ghana, collecting a lot of fees. And some say, oh, what you see as fees for the PMMC or Gold Board is a loss on the Bank of Ghana's books. They don't really have this information. Either than that, they will not be saying that. So the Bank of Ghana says here, the agreement says the service charge or fee shall cater for logistics and transport costs, insurance, security, smelting laws, and trade as market conditions change. This is clause 13 of the agreement, signed in September 2023 at the direction of the Economic Management Team, chaired by His Excellency Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia, because they were this whole domestic gold purchase program emanated from there. Okay, so this is one fee which is very important. Then there is another fee called asset fees. Now the asset fee is a fee of 0.258%, which the Gold Board, the PMMC.
Thank you for making time with us once again. Really appreciate your time and say God bless you. If you're a new member, you have not yet subscribed, please do so for us. Hit the notification bell, like and also share to other members. To keep you updated, please kindly turn on the notification bell so that you'll be the first to receive anything that will be uploaded here. And it's all about politics, nothing apart from politics. What you want to know in the political arena, you'll bring it your way right here on PENDREAM TV. Stay tuned. Till next time, keep watching.
Dedi kama mamena PENDREAM TV ase. Now so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.